today, like, what are you controlled by? Is there anyone here who have been controlled by things before in their life?
I think along the lines of how, you know, like opinions really sway you, your decisions. You always got to think, what would everybody else do?
I was definitely controlled by that, in a big way.
Once inside the Boston Church of Christ, life becomes rapidly controlled. The intellectual, cultural and social life of members is guided by the church.
Great point, that's a great point.
Like many fundamentalist religions, the Boston Church of Christ fears the seductions of the flesh.
What a day this is, what a rare moonlight. Why, it's almost like being in love.
The single men and women live separately in communal apartments. They're allowed contact with the other sex only on Saturday night, only between 6 and 12, and only with those the church approves of.
Well, basically, like, sex before marriage, like in any form of sex, is regarded as immoral, and that's, like, not accepted in the church. It's, you know, encouraged to just have pure relationships, and that involves, like, the relationships between, like, the men and the women, or the brothers and the sisters, you know, as we say. It's like we go on dates, you know, usually once a week on a Saturday night, and it's like going out with like two couples. It's preferred to go with like another couple, so it's not just, you know, one guy and one girl, like, by themselves.
Will you date outsiders?
No, it's not encouraged to date outsiders.
You wouldn't be allowed to hold hands or kiss or anything like that. It would be very much, very, very pure. If you saw each other outside dating time, you couldn't really have any contact at all. And a kiss goodnight would be all.
I would swear I was falling, swear I was falling. It's almost like being in love.
This is the Eastern Zone single men's house in Sydney. There is a chain of command which all members of the church submit to. Each person has a discipler, who in turn is a disciple to someone else. This is the most feared part of the life of the Boston Church of Christ. Nothing can be hidden from one's discipler.
Yeah, thanks. I disciple John. It's all about talking about the things you're working on in your life, the things you're trying to change, and the person's there to encourage you, to help you, and just to talk to you. So what have you been reading this morning?
You'd be interested in basically everything. If they had a question or a query about every little thing, whether they wanted to go out and visit their parents, they needed to ask your advice whether they could do that or not. Whether they wanted someone to invite someone around for dinner, they needed to ask your advice on that particular thing. So every decision that needed to be made basically had to be approved by myself.
They rejected, like, God as their king.
Discipling is an all-consuming relationship. It's expected that all of John's major life decisions are discussed with Scott.
Everyone else had a king and they didn't have a king.
It's a pervasive demand which works not only with singles but married couples. It intrudes into the privacy of marriages. Peter Gray found his first allegiance must be to his discipler.
But you know what I mean? It's the relationship that allows you to even ask.
There were certain things that you could never share with your wife because of the factors that it would always be reported back to your discipler. My dilemma was my wife was still very much a part of the movement. Anything that I shared with her would get back to the leaders, and a strategy developed of how they could get me or cement me back in, how they could get me thinking right, how they could keep me there. Now, I had to make the decision that I would have to leave regardless of whether she came with me or not. And well, it's just like it's got to the point where there's so much of your life that you could just no longer share together. But for her sake, for my children's sake, I had to leave.
And they make their arguments to God, and they plead with God
For many, the hold of the church is terrifying. Even the idea of leaving is met with discipline. When Emma wavered, she was challenged by Terry Fontenot, the women's leader of the church in Australia.
We're all sitting down. Terry was sitting on the seat above us, and another girl was sitting behind me, and we're sitting in a circle, and each person has a go at challenging your particular sin. But I was challenged that Mum was a wicked, evil person, that she was working for Satan. She used Bible scriptures. She said that, you know, the daughters will turn against their parents and their mothers. She said that's what, you know, needs to happen, that, you know, if I wasn't going to be committed, then I could just walk out the door right now and never see them again. Some other people were challenging me that my sin of sentimentality was just as bad as being a prostitute, and that I need to see it in those same eyes, that I was in so much sin, that I wasn't changing, that, you know, it was so emotional, it was so draining, and she just yelled and yelled and yelled at me for a long time, which I brought up that later to her, but it was really stressful, and I just couldn't handle it anymore. I just broke down and gave in, and okay, I'll do what you want me to do, just so that they stopped.
It was experiences such as this which led Emma's parents to look outside for help to get her out. After delicate and exhaustive negotiations, she was given permission by the church to return home last Christmas. 3 exit counsellors were flown to Australia, and after 3 mind-bending days, she came out.
Well, first of all, I'd like to say if it cost twice as much, we would have done it. But it ended up costing us because we had a lot of pre-phone calls, a lot of organising this end to America, and then, of course, bringing 3 people out. It cost us around $27,000. And it was worth every penny to see Emma free and be able to make her own choices, to be the person that she was. And that is just, to us, just wonderful to see that.
Really, it's stronger than fear.
Yeah.
You know,
Stephen Hassan is the intellectual force behind the anti-cult movement in Australia. His book on mind control has sold 100,000 copies.
I think for many years people have had a primarily theological approach to cults. Mine is a psychological, behavioral one, and I describe any group as being a destructive cult if it's a pyramid-structured organization that's authoritarian with someone at the top that has complete power and control, and that uses deception in its recruitment and mind control techniques to keep people obedient and dependent. So this can include a religious group, this could be a political group, this could be a psychotherapy relationship or group, or even a commercial group.
This is business training in the 90s. And it's this which Steve Hassan and others say is not as benign as it looks. There are few of these people who know what it is they're about to go through. They're stepping into a highly refined and tested machine. The room temperature, the colour, the music, all carefully chosen.
We just work together, creating that environment, and music's one of the most important roles here, as important as the instructor.
Many companies use this as a training program for their staff. 40% are here by invitation from graduates. In the last year, the Australian franchises of this US course earned $2.5 million.
People want to be millionaires. They want to have happy relationships.
Since 1978, we've had tens of thousands of people from all over the world go through our courses. If you're ready for a change, then we have the curriculum for you.
According to your personal objectives,
Money and You is the entry point to a pyramid of courses. All qualify for the federal government training levy.
These include creating wealth.
From their base in Phoenix, Arizona, accelerated learning instructors fly to courses promoted in each capital city in Australia.
Do you want to be left behind in the ashes of our old economy? Or do you want to learn how to take control of your own future?